Hello, welcome. Welcome to Ibsen Museum and Theatre. We finally opened after being closed down since 1st of January 2019. It all started here in 1990 with a Norwegian actor coming by. He wanted to make the Ibsen Museum with the Ibsen's apartment. And so he did, and he played Ibsen dramas in the apartment. Yeah, but it didn't look anything like it does today then. In 1993, the Norwegian Cultural History took charge for the museum, and then we had Ibsen's study returned and Ibsen's bedroom returned. And then in 2005 we restored the whole apartment so it looks exactly as it did when Henrik Ibsen lived here in 1895. Welcome to Ibsen's apartment. This is where he lived the last 11 years of his life together with his wife Susanna. Welcome in. In here we have Ibsen's study. This is where he wrote his two last dramas, John Gabriel Borkman in 1896 and When We Dead Awaken in 1899. Everything is original here. Every single thing was exactly as it was when Ibsen lived here. That's why we closed it. So it's like an exhibit in here and the time stands still there. And here you can see his desk and you can see the view he had looking straight up on the King's Castle. Sharp to the right you can see a huge portrait of a Swedish author called August Strindberg. Ibsen said that Strindberg is my mortal enemy and I need this madman's eyes staring me in my neck while I'm writing. And that's quite fun because they two never met. Strindberg wrote a novel called Giftas 1. And in the foreword there, he writes about a doll's house. And he says that A Doll's House is the most false drama Ibsen ever wrote. And this Nora, she knew exactly what she was doing. She like twirls her husband round the little finger as women do. And this stupid man, Thorvald, doesn't know what happens. So he can't accept that Ibsen lets Nora leave the family. So Strindberg writes his own novel, A Doll's House, where the Nora person gets sick and dies. Much more suitable for a woman, he thinks. If you look, there's another portrait here. Between the windows there, you can see Henrik Ibsen. He was a doctor of honor at Uppsala University in Sweden. And Ibsen really wanted to go to the university to study and become a doctor, to study medicine. Luckily, he failed in maths, so he couldn't get into the university. And if he had, we wouldn't have had the playwright Henrik Ibsen as we have today. So let's continue into the red drawing room. He had his routines. Every morning he got up at 7, had his oatmeal, had a bath, got dressed, went for a walk, came back and started to work at 9 o'clock. And there he sat working until 11:30, then he laid down his pen, even if he was in the middle of a sentence, put on his top hat and went that direction, down to Grand Café. And I wondered for many years, why did he go to Grand Café? Well, there they had foreign newspapers, so he could read about what was going on out in Europe. I think he missed the foreign countries. He missed Italy, he missed Germany. But down there he could have his Spatenbräu, a German beer, a schnapps and a newspaper. And there was a young painter sitting down there looking at his look at this genius, and his name was Edvard Munch, and he was only 19, 20 years old. And he wrote in his diary, Ibsen came through the door as a ship, you know. Munch has painted loads of portraits of Ibsen from Grand Café, but he never dared to ask the playwright to model for him. So it was just by memory. And often one small eye and one big guy, you know, because Munch thought he could see right through us. And one day a journalist asked him, "How many hours do you work a day, Dr. Ibsen?" And Ibsen said, 5. And the journalist wasn't that impressed by the answer, but Ibsen continued, "But I'm working in here all the time." And if Ibsen had been here today, I'm sure we would have a cup of punch. And punch you can find in almost all of Ibsen's dramas. They're drinking punch. Hedda Gabriel is drinking punch, yeah. The blue drawing room, it looks quite the same as a doll's house, I think. If you read the scene, the stage description of a doll's house, you can see there's a door there. And there's an oven, and between the door and the oven, there is a piano, exactly as it is here. And Ibsen said, "Music makes me nervous." And I don't think it was because he hated music. Maybe it was more that he couldn't play the piano or an instrument at all. He was the one who asked Edvard Grieg to compose music to Bergljot. And Edvard Grieg really didn't want to have this job. He said, "This is awful." There are loads of people saying that Ibsen is a feminist. And Ibsen, he was invited to a dinner, and they had speeches for him, and they were thanking him for his work for the female liberation. And then Ibsen has a speech, and he says, "I know nothing about female liberation. I am writing about the human beings." Ibsen really enjoyed making Christmas decorations. So when they lived in Germany, he could sit there with his scissor and paper for hours making Christmas decorations. But then one day Susanna decided that the Christmas tree is only having white cotton on. And it really annoyed Henrik Ibsen. So he took his revenge. When he writes A Doll's House in 1879, there's a little story about a cat that comes in and find all the Christmas decoration on the table and ruins everything. And we think it's quite funny because we know that Ibsen called his wife the eagle and the cat. So it's in fact Susanna that comes and ruins the Christmas. Okay, the next room will be Ibsen's library. And you would assume this is Ibsen's favorite room, but it's not. It was Susanna who spent most of her time here. And she sat in this chair over here beneath the huge painting. This painting Ibsen gave to his wife, and you can see Pietro Argentino. And he was an erotic novelist from the Renaissance. Yeah. And I'm told, I don't know if it's true, but I'm told that his books were so erotic that the Pope paid him for not writing. She was the one who read books. Ibsen himself said, "I don't read books, I read a newspaper." But in the evenings he came into the library, sat down in one of the chairs, and Susanna was translating books, newspaper articles, and they were discussing what was going on in the world or in the books. And we also have some of his medals and orders here, and they were very important for Henrik Ibsen, because every time he came with a new book, the critiques were often bad. So for him, the medals and orders was like, I accomplished something. Susanna should have the largest bedroom. So this is Susanna's bedroom. Ibsen's bedroom, you can see through the door there. It's much smaller, but there is a door that takes you out on a balcony. And Ibsen had to sit on the balcony every hour or every day. He had to sit on the balcony every day, or else he would be a very bad mood. And it's also in his bedroom, the last 2 weeks of his life, he was more or less unconscious, and he was staying in bed, and they had a nurse looking after him. And one day the nurse said, "Today Ibsen looks so much better." And the whole family was there. Ibsen himself, suddenly he sat up in his bed and he said, "On the contrary," and laid back in his pillows, went into a coma and died the next day. And I think that's superb because Ibsen was, on the contrary, everything he wrote about was not what he should have written about that time. And it is still interesting and it's still important for us with Ibsen's dramas today.